So thanks, first of all, for joining this. I think I shared it with most of you before. One of our first webinars we're holding. So really appreciate that you are showing up, and let us know also what you think about it afterwards. I hope it's valuable. We're still learning and setting those webinars up, and are very keen to understand also what kind of topics are interesting, and what could you take from it, and what we could do better. So please feel free to share during the call in the chat. I have Val here who has a look on it and can also reply to things, and also obviously afterwards. Let me share my screen. I prepared a few slides to go over together. So today's topic, how to use AI for market mapping with Claude, Codex, and ChatGPT. So maybe to start with, like, if you reflect a little bit, like, how do you currently actually decide which companies to source from, and where does that research actually live after the search is over, and is this reusable? Feel free to share in the chat. Might be interesting for us to also have a look at it later. Just to make sure you're correct here, you're right here, you're going to get some value out of it. So this session is meant for everyone who's actually actively sourcing for candidates, not just like a post and pray approach. Probably it's more tailored towards people who work on white collar or tech roles and using LinkedIn Recruiter or Recruiter Lite. And obviously, if you're if you showed up here, you're interested in how you can use AI to save time and not spend so much time on research and maybe reviewing candidates. Maybe a few words how I ended up actually thinking about this stuff here. So my name is Manuel, or you can call me Manu, and I'm based here in the Philippines. On the right here, you see a team of human talent sourcers I've built in the Philippines over the last couple of years, and I trained a bunch of them. And started this before AI was even a real topic. And I spent a lot of time on like how to optimize the different processes when it comes to active sourcing for humans. And then when AI came around the corner, I basically started to dig into more and more, how can we actually also help the team and basically use those new AI workflows to make it easier for active sourcing. Obviously, like the whole active sourcing process has a couple of different steps, right? In the end of the day, it's a funnel. And I think in most of these steps, you can bring AI into the play. Today, we're just going to focus on the top of funnel piece basically here when it comes to like how you have a new search. How do I research this market? How do I even decide on like what kind of hunting ground would make sense? Where do I find those high likelihood candidates, etc. Right? But obviously, in the steps that are following, we can also bring AI into the play. We actually had a few weeks back, like the first webinar more on the candidate review side. We will have another webinar coming up on personal outreach and how to use AI also on that side of things. And I'm sure also on the conversation side, there are other tools out there and other things you can do. So we will dig deeper into that funnel. Today, we're going to focus on this market mapping part. Like I shared before, I've spent a lot of time with my team here in the Philippines, and the whole reason building that team was because it is so much work, right? Like if you want to do proper research on a role and finding candidates, it's just a lot of work. And in the past, a very common answer was, okay, let's find an outsourcing partner basically, or even build our own team somewhere in a more low labor cost market to just like hand over that work and have that done remotely at a cheaper price point. And that's what I've done in the past, right? Like with my team here in the Philippines, and building out hunting grounds was always a heavy lift, right? Like depending on what kind of market you are in, this can actually take quite a lot of time. And it's hard to also maintain. And with what I'm showing you today is, I think when I look at the work that the team has done in the past in like 1 to 2 days, is often comparable to what is now possible in like 30 minutes with the tools we have at hand now. And maybe also a quick note on why is this even relevant, right? Because I mean, you can use AI to review candidates, and it takes less time than spending human time on it. So it's fast. But it still makes sense to have a proper understanding of your market. And one of the main reasons is it might be faster, but intelligence is still not free, right? So in the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you use AI or if you use human compute, if you use your own brain or someone else's brain to go over it and do the task, you're still paying for that intelligence and that energy being spent. It's not free. So it still makes sense to be efficient, right? You still want to kind of, as a first step, be efficient and understand how can I avoid reviewing candidates that are clearly not a good fit, or how can I start with the highest likelihood candidates the other way around. And you want to bring up this hit rate. And this is why today is important, right? This is why market mapping is important when it comes to overall like finding the candidates. Obviously, in when you run an agency and you have clients and you want to also consult them and give them a better understanding of who are we actually looking for, how does the market look like, there are obviously other parts to this as well. But just simply talking on the search itself, finding the candidate, I think this just brings up the hit rate dramatically. You invest a little bit more in the front, but then you don't have to invest so much time or intelligence on reviewing individual candidates. Partly tackled this already, right? Like if you want to understand like which kind of companies are actually good companies to take as a starting point to find candidates, like what is our hunting ground, we often call this. Where do we want to avoid spending time, and how many relevant people are actually out there, right? All those are very, very interesting questions where market mapping is meant to help with. And what I'm going to show you here today now is to kind of segment like these lists of interested companies like into those three buckets here. We're probably going to more focus on like the target companies and maybes. I don't think we're going to have time to go on avoid companies, but obviously when it comes to understanding and trying to increase your hit rate and understanding the market you're going for, it's important to like look for the positives, but also for the negatives, right? Both save time. If you know clearly like what kind of companies you want to source from, it's as important as if you can identify clearly companies that you don't want to source from. That might be also very relevant. So keep that in mind as well. And again, yeah, so the mistake that I've seen my team at Talmor do in the past, and that's why we implemented like a very strict human hunting ground research process back in the day, was because often they would just go straight away into the search, right? Like they basically fire up their LinkedIn recruiter, plug in some keywords, plug in some Boolean search strings, and start reviewing candidates, just to realize that just a small fraction of the candidates they would look at actually made sense to move forward with. And one thing that really changed that was to just take a step back first and do some proper research, right? So that's, I think, one big takeaway that makes sense. And yeah, I mean, competitors is maybe one of the most common angles when you think about what kind of hunting ground to build, what kind of target list to put together. Then industry players are interesting. If depending on what kind of roles you're working on, just simply like geography might be interesting. If you think about sales roles, also like same customer segment might be like an interesting angle to kind of drive your research into. Same business model, similar tech stack. So all those kinds of starting angles, I think, are good angles to take to do your research. And depending on what you do, we're going to tackle that a little bit later. There are different data providers you can also easily plug into your AI agent to basically drive that research and make it most efficient. Yeah, some examples already. Like the minimum what you need for what I'm showing you today is either Claude, ChatGPT, or Codex, and then from there you can basically build on top. And some other things you might want to add is like Perplexity or Exa, Ocean.io. Those are all different search tools that are built for AI agents that allow you to more easily generate lists, basically. Both Exa as Ocean have like a little bit like a lookalike approach in it as well. So for in some scenarios, it might be nice to add Perplexity, similar case. And then for geography is like another interesting tool to potentially plug in is Serper. So basically, this allows your AI agent to efficiently run a lot of like Google queries, not just against search, but also against maps. So if you think about like you're recruiting in a local context and you're looking specifically, you're trying to build a local target list, meaning companies that are listed on Google Maps, this might be a great tool to plug into your Claude to then run actually the search, to have all those search Google Maps search results basically as a starting point to build out that search. But what we're going to look at today is actually just making use of Claude and the built-in web research part it has already in there. As always, that might be depending where you are in your AI journey. Another takeaway is AI needs context. So meaning you want to rather overshare with AI agents than share too little. So the more context you give an AI agent, the easier it is for it to help you and understand how it can bring value to what you're actually trying to achieve. So, and in this context here, if you're building out a market research canvas is how I call it in TalentSource AI, is you probably want to share like the role and the context, the JD, and a little bit of constraints, what industries you're looking for. If you have already like good companies, like examples, and be rather overshare than undershare. One thing I'm always using is I use voice. So I always speak to my AI, and all those tools by now have also like a recording button basically in there where you can just bubble off and share. I always recommend just doing that. All right, now let's actually jump into a quick demo here. I did a quick search this morning and thought what might be interesting to do is here like this role I found on LinkedIn Jobs. An account executive in Australia, SMB focus for Rippling. And one thing that stuck out to me here is that they actually have this in there. This might be actually a little bit small. Let me make this bigger. That they have this experience in selling HRIS and HCM software is a bonus. And so this might be actually a very nice starting point to build some sort of hunting ground around. The other tool that you're going to see now here is TalentSource AI. Shameless plug, that is my solution. That is something I've built that brings you basically from this research part that we're looking at today all the way to like actually checking candidates, enriching them with contact data, building out campaigns, personalizing outreach message, and sending those via email and LinkedIn. So from nothing to interested candidates. Today, we're just going to look at this research canvas part. Everything I show you, though, you don't have to use TalentSource AI to it. You can also connect your Claude, that's what you see on the right side, or ChatGPT or whatever you are usually using as your chat interface, and just give it access to a Google Sheet or something. Might be a little bit harder to maintain and plug it into the workflow, but in the end of the day, I think the main value of what I'm showing you today is more on this research bit here. How I like to start, and similarly, you could do the same. Even if you're not using TalentSource AI, you would just tell the agent to set something up maybe in your Google Workspace or whatever you are using to structure your work. Just drop in the job description here as context, and then I'll dictate to it. This is connected via an MCP server to TalentSource AI, so it can create also projects and so on for me here. So please create a new active project in TalentSource AI in my TalentSource AI workspace for this role, and also set up a research canvas. Don't do the research yet, just create the project and the canvas itself. And that is also maybe something when you look at other tools, you might be evaluating for whatever kind of processes you run in your business. this is something I really got to appreciate, is like this MCP server setup, so that Claude now is basically able to directly set something up here. I see now the project is now popped up here. Can go into that, and it's set up already the research canvas for us. And this MCP server is a standard. So a lot of tools are now launching their own MCP servers and allows you to connect your agents to it. And a lot of, before kind of manual data entry, click around work, you can do now with those MCP servers. So I highly encourage you to figure out if the tools that they are using already might already offer MCP servers and connected. It makes your life easier. All right, then let's just copy it from over here. And then I would just start basically here. And like I said earlier, we're using just now the built-in web and research functionality of Claude, which is often already like a great starting point. Now let's build out this research canvas. Specifically, we are interested in companies in Australia in the following field. Don't forget to also input their websites and LinkedIn accounts and headcounts into this. I think for the beginning, we can just focus on 10 companies, and then I'll review those. And at this point now, the agent here basically goes out, does some web research. Obviously, like all those different models are trained, and I mean, this is not the fastest moving industry, so it might already have a lot of knowledge about like potential providers in the model itself. But it also is connected to like and can do web research, etc. So this is also, I assume, what's happening behind the scene now here. And yeah, you see it here, searching web. So this is now doing building out the proper landscape, and then moving this over here into our hunting ground to then actually set up a first search, etc. Maybe as a next step. Let's see how far we come. And I mean, I just limited it now to 10 companies. Obviously, like Claude and all those others, you can also send off to spend hours and days researching until they found the last bit of evidence somewhere in the darkest place of the internet. This is pretty limitless how deep this can dig. You can make it more efficient by maybe connecting also some other tools to it. All right, it's happy with 10 verified data points here. Alrighty, so we have a couple of providers that are also operating in Australia now here. And obviously, like I said, you can build this out depending on what kind of market you are operating in. This might be actually a very long list as a result. Nice thing is in here that this is also easily to surface again on a new search and maybe reuse and so on in TalentSource AI. And I think that's also how, if you don't use TalentSource AI to do this, if you structure that research somewhere else, is maybe something I would try to keep in mind, how to maybe build out lists. And maybe if you rework on that same list, make sure you share that you don't have to have the agent to redo the same work over and over again. So maybe keep this in mind when you structure things outside of a tool like TalentSource AI. For now, I think we're happy with it. We got like a rationale here why this company is a fit. So I think that's also something maybe to point out here, that if you work with AI, often it makes sense to try to make things observable, to get a reasoning for why something is added. And for example, to a specific list, makes just your life easier, and also makes it more easy to reuse afterwards with AI, because then the next session you might have with your AI agent is aware of why the last AI agent added this specific company to the list, and then it's a little bit easier to reason and have a better handover. let's say we are happy with this one here. I think that's the core, but just to give you really a little bit of a sneak preview here, what might come next is then obviously, okay, now we have the companies. How do we actually get the people, right? So for this role here, let's just give this a shot with our LinkedIn recruiter. Could you give me a Boolean search string for the companies that I can plug into my LinkedIn recruiter? All right, so just go for the companies. I actually played around with this earlier already. Can just redo this. Might be slightly different. And then let's do the same here for the job titles that are relevant in this scenario. All right, and we limit already to Australia. So this might be now your list of 2,100 candidates that have or are working. I mean, depends a little bit how you want to cut things, right? So this is, I think, current and past. Similar here. I think it's currently current and past. So you might want to limit this a little bit, but this is kind of a nice starting point to then maybe even map further down, like how this would work here in this workflow. You would probably create, like, import these candidates then into a search in TalentSource AI if you wanted to use TalentSource AI to do that. And then check it against a briefing you create. So I could also say here, okay, awesome, please create a first briefing also that we can use to check candidates against. And that might be then like based on the job description, like a first set of must-have requirements and nice-to-have requirements that we want to check the candidates that we got into the solution against, and then maybe to show how the result of something like this could then look like. Then you would see in here basically all the checked candidates and which requirements are actually yes, which ones are no. And in the context of market mapping, something that is more relevant and would be like something we call your talent pool insights. You would then see exactly basically how is that talent pool being cut into different brackets depending on which requirements are fulfilled and which ones are not fulfilled, and getting a sensitivity analysis on how individual requirements actually drive the talent pool. So this is something you could then maybe also discuss with the client. It's like, hey, this 15 years of recruiting experience, does this really have to be a must-have? Because if we would move it to a nice-to-have, we actually would have 9 more candidates that we could tackle, right? So, I mean, this is a small search. In our example, where we have like 2,000 candidates, there might be other requirements where you kind of want to massage then the talent pool to the right size. And you really have then a proper understanding of like, okay, starting with like the hunting ground, what are all the candidates that we want to look at, even boiling down like the specific talent pool to how do specific requirements drive the addressable talent pool for this search. That is the main part of the demo here. This is how I typically would run a market mapping approach. And again, more like ideally you want to have in this market map, in this hunting ground, you want to put in more than just the names. You want to have basically the reasoning, why is it relevant, geographies, and so on, because then it makes it way easier to also reuse that research down the line. And there is with AI now, you don't have to type anymore yourself, so you don't have to be lazy about this. And on the other side, the more context you can give to AI, like I said earlier, the better it is for AI, the more value you get out of it. So you make sure you really keep track of everything that matters to you and the AI. And and make sure you when you use AI, when you do this research, try to really save it somewhere, right? Like one of the, like, I save it in TalentSourcer AI, but you might, even if it's just a Google Doc or something, do save it, because it makes sense to have something to go back to and work on. Don't just have it all stuck in that chat, because you're never going to go back to that chat and it's going to get messy. So try to keep track of your research and sort it properly. And that's pretty much it for now. Sorry for the long monologue. I guess so. That's the case in a webinar. It's a little bit of a one-way setting. So I do want to give you a chance here now to share some questions or some feedback also in the chat here on the right side. Happy to dig into anything deeper, or if anything wasn't clear. Like I said, that was one of the first times we are actually running through this specific part of our webinar series. So if I was a little bit fast somewhere or anything wasn't clear, please let me know, and happy to hear some questions. Just drop them in the chat. How do you filter out companies that you don't want to source from? Pretty much the same way, honestly. Like if you have companies or a sort of a set of companies that you don't want to touch. Like I structure it basically here, and like I called it here no-go companies. And I would similarly just drive the research through the chat to my AI agent, tell it basically, here's a company. Those are companies we really don't want to hire from. So anyone who is currently there or has been there in the past, put it on a no-go list. And then I would put those companies there. And then at the point here where I ask, can you give me the Boolean search string? Usually the chat agent is smart enough to understand this, so it would already implement this as into your Boolean search string, that those companies are being avoided. Similarly, maybe to the other part, when it comes to the briefing, if it's something where you cannot drive it from the search setup, that might also be simply something you want to include as a requirement. So that you just basically have it probably as a must-have in the system here, that you say is not currently working for any of the following companies, or hasn't worked in the past, depending on how you set it up. So then also every candidate the system checks would be checked against that requirement, and you can sort it in or out based on that specific requirement, if you cannot avoid it already in the start of the search through your market mapping and your search setup. While you guys are thinking, I think there's at least one or two more slides. So just a quick recap, basically. Give context, right? Like brief the role before you actually dive into the research. Make sure the agent has context. What are we doing here? Why are we doing it? And do the market mapping before reviewing individual candidates. It can save you. It doesn't matter how you review them. If you use AI or if you use human compute, it's going to save you a lot of time. Think in not only positives, think also into the negative, right? Like, what do I want to focus on and what do I want to avoid? Both can save you a lot of time. And save the research so you can make it reusable and have like a jump off point in your next search without having to redo the research. Even if it's now fast-ish with AI, you still want to make sure that you are efficient. And often also in that saved research is also a lot of taste already in there, right? Like, what do you like? How do you look at things? And the more you can share as context, the easier the AI has it to understand the direction you want to go. And I mentioned earlier, this was just market mapping. We peeked a little bit into candidate review. There are more steps. There are more ways to use AI. So if you're interested in also joining one of our other upcoming webinars, just let us know, and happy to extend an invite to the next one where we will dive into the other steps and understand a little bit better how to make AI valuable in those steps. Generally, maybe a word on how I look at AI. I don't believe in like black box AI and AI is going to do everything and you just click a button and have candidates magically appear. I think I don't believe in that. And so everything we are looking here at is very observable. it's basically you are still in full control, and we're just using AI to make you 10 or 100x faster. And I know there are a lot of other like AI promises out there where it's like AI, just click a button and you have candidates appear. Like I said, I don't really believe in this. I believe in recruiters, and I just want to give them the best like workflows and make them just faster. But in the end of the day, I think there has to be someone in control. So that's what you can also expect from the other upcoming sessions. It's going to be more focused on when it comes, for example, to outreach, like how to use AI to get you like a great draft of messages, but you will still be the one who's reviewing it and basically making sure every message is to your taste and to your liking, right? Like I don't like those spam machines where you just have like AI blasting random messages basically. And if you're aligned with that, I think you might get some value out of the upcoming sessions as well. All right, this is the last slide here. Then obviously, I mentioned it, and it's probably clear by now. TalentSource AI is a tool I've built. I've built initially for myself and for my team, but it is a separate product and available to the public to use. So if you're interested in that, or if you just simply also want to just take a closer look at your processes and how to maybe bring AI into this, happy to jump on a call also with you afterwards. Not necessarily today, but maybe next week or so.